If we look at setup, as we said, creating that kind of lowercase y there with your hands and arms.
Yeah.
And the club, I like that, okay? This one to me wasn't actually that bad. It was a little bit more towards a kind of capital Y. Hands are kind of, I would say, ideally sort of in between those two. I'd rather see you at the moment go more to this right-hand one, getting the hands forward, getting more of an angle this way in the golf ball than as we saw before, leaning back on this right side. So this one here on the left, if we sort of go through and see kind of where impact is now. As you came back to the ball, that there is basically when that ball's starting to blur, and you can see your hands are kind of back here behind the ball, almost like your trail arm and the club shaft are almost in line. So you're adding a lot of loft. Your low point now is probably here, somewhere behind the golf ball. So now you've got to try and play golf intentionally missing the ground, which not really going to work very successfully, very easily. You're going to tend to catch the ball a lot of thin shots, or if you don't thin them, you're going to fat the golf ball and the ball's not going to be very far, okay? What we want to see, as a swing thought to summarise all we talked about today in the session to one go, is we want to stay centred with your head in the backswing, move left in the downswing, So as you go back here now, good head position, nice good rotation. You stayed pretty much on there, okay? Now we're going to move into that yellow line here on the left, as you can see. That's the wall thing we did up on the drill there with that wall. As you can see, you come into impact, and now there's your hands at impact.
And my arms are...
We're moving. If we look at those two, they're basically the same impact. See how much more your hands are moving. And again, if I'm being critical, they could move a little bit more. To go from where you were to where you are is moving in the right direction. I think from your point of view, I'd rather you still be nearer where you were and just gradually move over. So you're still within your comfort zone and you can make contact, and we're just moving gradually bit by bit along sort of the sessions that we've got. To go there and straight away would just be a massive change and probably feel quite uncomfortable, okay? But the thing for me through the ball, if we watch this swing here now, head down, looks a bit kind of almost tucked up and shrugged there with the shoulders. Compare that to this one here now. Look how much more free. I mean, your head's at the much more released position here. Your shoulders and chest at the same spot, but now you're looking down here rather than looking down there. The knees kind of kicked in a bit more. The knees, microphone, sorry. The knees barely moving on that one there. This one now sort of moving in towards that lead hip. So moving round to a nice follow through. Did it come up fully? It did on the last couple, just not on that one there. But we saw, because you're thinking of staying centred, you remain centred. But I'd rather that be a bad shot where you stay centred and you don't quite do the left. You'll catch it a little bit clean, as opposed to the big old sway here and just hanging back on the right foot, So the better movement through the ball is something going to take a little bit of practice. But at least with the takeaway, you're getting a good turn there now. So we're rotating here. We're sort of swinging inside that phone booth. And again, we talk about the width with your arms. Much better, keeping the arms there nice away from the torso, And that might look a slightly shorter backswing, but you still turn your shoulders 90 degrees to target, and you still maintained a fairly good 90-degree wrist hinge. So for me, it's just by how much your arms can lift, which again, is not going to be that high, but that's actually a good movement there, to be fair. It's getting yourself in a position where we're able to bottom out the club here, whereas before you just couldn't do it. Despite all your best efforts and intentions, it was never going to happen that easily, okay? So the two words to say, centre to start with, move left. I think setup-wise, hands are slightly forward and that grip slightly tweaked round, but mainly looser in that grip, It shouldn't hurt your hand. You shouldn't be there on the golf course. If you find yourself on the range or practicing doing this, you go, your arms feel a bit sore. You're just gripping on tighter than you need to, We don't try and control that club by gaining tension, It's not a wild dog that's going to move off. We're going to try and grab onto it. It's not going to move until you move it. Okay, does that kind of make sense then, Gareth, Some things to work on. Obviously, you've got some sessions we're going to go through here now, so we can practice that, get that movement working there, so you can do some work either at home or on the golf course or whatever it may be, working on that centred backswing. We'll probably look in a little bit more detail, that impact next session probably. I think session 3 will be on the golf course, looking at how you play golf and see what you do. And then we'll look at some things on the golf course there as to where we need to work on, maybe some short games, some bunkers, some putting, some irons, some fair, whatever it may be as the game progresses through, But definitely the first couple working on...
Short game is really slightly hit and miss.
Okay.
The hit and miss tends to be... I lift it too much, in other words.
Scoop it up in the air. Hands behind the ball.
I noticed a number of my fellow
Other golfers, yeah.
They've got a means. Their view would be, don't
go so high,
don't
yeah.
go so high.
Keep it
Just
lower,
keep it
yeah.
And they do reasonably well.
Yeah, I mean, generally the ball on the ground is an easier, more under control shot. Yeah, it doesn't go out of control so much. But there are times when height is needed. Yeah, but that will be the same if you're chipping the ball with a similar kind of impact position with your hands back here. You either scoop it up in the air or you thin it across the green.
Yeah,
one of the two.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff, Carl.